What's going on, guys? Matt here. So today we're looking at the Cold Steel Air Lite. Really interesting blade, obviously very lightweight folding knife. We're going to dig into it. We're going to do some size comparisons, talk about specs, what I like, what I don't like, and then we'll end it with a recommend or not recommend. So let's do some size comparisons real quick. Compare it to a classic Spyderco Endura. Obviously that's the stainless version. Not a huge fan of the Grivery version. It's not bad. Honestly, I don't love the Spyderco Endura, mostly because that doesn't index right. But really similar size blade. A little bit smaller on the Air Lite. This I think is like 3.8. This is about 3.5 inch blade. But kind of a similar size. If you have a Delica or a Endura, you want a similar size blade, Cold Steel Air Lite might be one you look at. Let's look at a comparison to a fixed blade. Another Cold Steel SRK. This is a 3V version. And just for funsies, we're gonna look at a couple more. One that you guys probably don't know. I don't want to show it anyway. CRKT Minimalist. I've reviewed a Minimalist in D2. This is the Katana version. This thing is awesome. It was on sale at Smoky Mountain Knife Works for like 25 bucks. Had to pick it up. I think it's HCR 13 MOV, which is better than the standard, which is like 5CR. So HCR is a totally adequate steel. And let's compare it to what I'd say is kind of its brother, very similar in materials anyway. So this is the Cold Steel Recon one. Straight G10 handle, straight G10 handle. This is S35, this is OS10, but kind of similar in that sense. So let's talk about specs. We'll talk about what I like, what I don't like, and talk about if I recommend it or not. So for the specs, you are looking at 3.2 ounces overall. That's why they call it the Air Lite. Blade thickness is 3 millimeters. Blade length is 3.5 inches. It is OS 10A steel. A lot of Cold Steel is kind of mid-grade budget stuff is OS 10. I think it's awesome that they switched over to that. Totally cool. Handle length 4.5 inches, and it is solid G10. No liners in there. Thinner G10 than on the Recon 1 and let's say the AK-47. It has a reversible pocket clip, so unlike the Recon 1 where you have to swap to a separate pocket clip, that does come with the blade. You can just swap this one out, no worries. It's obviously drop point. It has the triad lock. To pick this up, usually they go for around 50-60 bucks. This also comes in a Tanto point, and yeah, 50-60 bucks is usually what you're looking at. Sometimes a little bit cheaper if you get it on a sale. So what do I like? Obviously, I really like how lightweight this is. 3.2 ounces is pretty impressive for a blade of this size. Now, this blade came out shortly after, you guessed it, the Benchmade Bugout came out. The Benchmade Bugout is a little bit smaller. I think it's like a 3.2 inch blade, but it only weighs 1.85 ounces. A lot of people raved at how lightweight that blade was, for how durable it was. It is a lightweight, durable blade. I haven't owned one just because I've handled them in the knife store and they just feel cheap. They don't connect with me. So I like what Cold Steel's doing here. I think they saw the craze of, hey, I want a really, really lightweight folder that sits in my pocket that I really don't notice throughout the day, but it can still handle tough stuff. That's what the Benchmade Bugout does, but this does it, in my opinion, way better. And that's gonna be a trend throughout this video as we go along. I think this blade does what the Benchmade Bugout is trying to do. I think it does it way better. So it is lightweight. You hardly notice this thing. 3.2 ounces for being able to handle how the things this thing can handle, being triad lock, straight G10 liners. You know, there's no skeletonizing, but there's also no like steel liners in there. So just G10, just a blade and a pivot and that triad lock. Very strong, but also super lightweight. Cold Steel, I believe, has some tests on this blade, what it can handle, and it's really, really impressive. So I love how lightweight it is. And along kind of that realm, this thing is super slim in pocket, hardly notice the thing at all. Kind of reminds me of, maybe not quite as slim as this, but yeah, it actually might be just about as slim as a stainless Endura. That's pretty impressive, guys. Again, for being as stout and as strong as it is. Look at it in comparison to the Cold Steel Recon 1, right? So when you hear, when you kind of see the specs and you look at this knife, you're like, oh, it's probably similar to the Recon 1, but just a smaller blade. They're very different. This is a true full-size folder, and it takes up quite a bit of pocket space, but, you know, gives you a really full grip, right? Really comfortable full grip. This has a very comfortable grip, and we'll get into that later. with also just being incredibly slim and incredibly low profile. So excellent design, both on the weight and how slim it feels in pocket. Even that dimension, well, look at that again, compared to the Endura. Look how much more there is, going on with the Endura right there. Just a lot more in your pocket. And again, the Recon 1, look at that. I mean, there's just a lot. It's much more slim, low profile design. I really appreciate that. Another thing I really like is it's just an extremely practical knife. No, it's not winning any awards. It's not. I actually have it in my pocket right now. Another Cold Steel, bunch of Cold Steels today. The Cold Steel Silver Eye, right? This thing is gorgeous. Carbon fiber, true carbon fiber handle, not just a print on top. S30V, I may or may not take that pivot thing out and just use it like a Spyderco hole. But, this is going to win some awards, right? It's really pretty, super lightweight as well. But this blade is not doing that. It's not a bad looking knife. I think it's a good looking knife, a good looking user knife. But what I'm saying is it's just incredibly practical because of how lightweight it is, because of how strong it is, because of the design of the blade, because of the strength of the G10 liners and the strength of the triad lock. This just screams practicality and usefulness. Again, the Benchmade Bugout, I think it delivers on the similar kind of practicality and usefulness. But when I pick up that blade, this blade feels quality. This blade feels solid. It feels like a knife that I can do stuff with. The Bugout just feels cheap. When I pull it out, it feels like a piece of plastic. Again, it's a good knife. It's well designed, but there's got to be a level of enjoyment of owning something, right? Something can be super practical and you just don't like the way it feels or the way it looks, and so you don't have a lot of joy in owning it or using it. This, I think, reaches that balance well. It's a good-looking knife, very simple, but good looking, and it feels good, and it's also extremely practical. Really like that. Moving on to that practicality and kind of going beyond that, actually, into the blade. So the blade has a really nice gradual drop point. It is a saber grind or a partial flat grind. People say it's called a saber grind. Well, it's a flat grind. It's just not a full flat grind, right? I don't know. Tell me what you guys think in the comments on that. So really practical blade. And on the blade, that jimping is really, really excellent. It's not too sharp to where it hurts when you use it, but it really just locks your hand in there. And there's plenty of real estate on this handle for my hand. So that jimping on that blade, excellent design. You don't have jimping on this blade right here. You have some on like the G10. And this really locks your hand in because, those divots, you're going to get locked in no matter what. But it kind of would be nice to have a flat portion right here and a little bit of actual jimping right there. I think this is honestly a better design. Having that jimping there really, really keeps your hand from moving up, and again, speaks to the practicality and usefulness of this blade and this knife overall. So I think that, and I talked about this earlier with the handle, given the kind of weight, it being 3.2 ounces, I'm going to pull out another blade, just use it as an example. I don't know how much this minimalist weighs. This is a very specific, kind of specifically designed blade, right? It's not meant to have a full grip of a handle, right? It gives you a 3-finger grip, grips you in nice. But it's not, I can't use this for carving if I want to, right? Even though it is super lightweight, it's just not going to be fun for carving, for kind of everyday tasks, even if I wanted to bring it out, camping or whatever. This is extremely comfortable in hard use, and I have used this blade a lot. You can see I've sharpened it a couple of times. I've used this blade a lot. I've used it outdoors. I've used it just day-to-day EDC kind of stuff, and it is extremely comfortable for how lightweight a knife is. A lot of times when you have a really slim, lightweight knife, you're getting a lot of hot spots. That is not the case with the Cold Steel Airlite. Last thing I want to mention that I like is the steel. So AUS 10, I think, is an excellent steel for the price you pay for it. Again, $50 for AUS 10A, I think, is outstanding. A lot of stuff I've seen is AUS 10 kind of performs like VG10, maybe not quite as rust resistant. Everything I've seen, that's seems to be true. And I think AUS 10 is just an excellent using steel. It's not super expensive, but it performs like some of the yesteryear's super steels, right? So I think Austin, excellent choice. I really would not mind seeing like more budget versions of the Recon 1 and of their nicer folders in Austin. Make them cost a little bit less, but still getting that design. I think it's an excellent steel. I'm going to do that video I mentioned, by the way, guys, on steels and how kind of super steels are overhyped. As much as I like them, they're just, I don't think they're always necessary, right? I think most people don't use their knives enough to notice. And I look more for design these days than I do steels, so long as the steels are adequate. Austin is definitely an adequate steel, and this is an excellent design. The only thing that I don't like on this blade is that text. That is some big text. Again, that's subtle enough. That's just huge. I don't think that's necessary. I think that like the Silver Eye looks a little bit better. It's a little more profile. Again, I think that I don't have it on the table, but the Case, Kinzua, and Marilla, they did laser etching perfectly. I think they're super classy looking. They look excellent. All you need is something that says cold steel OS 10A, and then you could put Airlight, or even just cold steel OS 10A. You know, we know the models based on what we see. That's just giant spaceman text. Is kind of strange. So anyway, but it's totally something I can get over because it doesn't look bad, to be honest. It's just huge, and I think it's kind of unnecessary. Look a little bit more classy if it didn't have that on there. So would I recommend this blade? Absolutely. The Cold Steel Airlight is, in my opinion, the most underrated folder out there. I think it's just an outstanding knife. How lightweight, how practical, how useful, and how inexpensive it is. It's just an excellent, excellent blade for the money you pay for it. I think it blows the Bugout out no problem, especially when you're looking at 150 bucks for a Bugout, sometimes more, sometimes less. I just for that price, I buy 2 of these and they'd last me forever. Steel, yeah, it's not S30V. It's not going to last quite as long. But something that would be cool is if Cold Steel came out with this in a S35VN steel and made it, what, 70 bucks? That'd be outstanding. I think this blows away the Bugout. Just about most of those other super lightweight folders that have come out since. Great job on this Cold Steel. It's an excellent blade. Outstanding design. I cannot recommend it enough. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.